Hello and welcome to yesterday's airlines. In this video we get the opportunity to have a look around ngmodels' latest mould, and it is in 200 scale, and obviously it is a little unusual. And I have to say I was super surprised when NG told me that they were making this mould, but on reflection I think it isn't as surprising as it first seems. The aircraft, if you don't recognise it first off, it's not surprising, not many of them around, at least at the moment, is the AVIC AG600M Kunlong, which is, as you can tell, an amphibian. So a flying boat, but one that can take off from standard runways as well with tricycle undercarriage. The aircraft is actually reasonably controversial, I guess. In a sense, it's not unexpected. It's primarily designed for search and rescue and firefighting roles. Obviously, it's going to be used in marine environments, and that is where the controversy comes into play, because China's obviously been building this ring of artificial islands in the Spratly area of the South China Sea. Many of these are big enough to have missiles and Air Force bases on. Some of them are not. But either way, this aircraft will obviously be super useful in supplying those bases by air, especially the smaller ones without landing strips, when you need to get things to places quickly, like troops and other supplies. So anyway, there's a good chance, I imagine, that this aircraft will be seen flying for the People's Liberation Army Air Force in the not too distant future. But it also has an important mission as a firefighter, and the first examples of the recent AG600M have been testing that firefighting capability. So the examples that are flying at the moment do seem very much aimed towards rescue and firefighting. Now, obviously, this aircraft is not necessarily the sort of aircraft which Western collectors are crying out for, and, you know, unsurprisingly, there's been a little bit of complaining, I guess, from Western collectors going, well, why are you making this? When the hints came out from NG about this mold, and also people obviously interested in other opportunities, other types of aircraft like the Dash 8, or Embraer 120, or Fokker 50, or various others that were chosen by them, but not by NG. But this aircraft does kind of fit with what NG have been making in 200 scale, because NG already do have. So I'll just put that undercarriage back on. NG already do have molds for both the ARJ21 and the Comac C919. So in both 200 and 400 scale, and obviously they've got the Kunpeng in 400 scale too. So this project is the third of the major projects ongoing at the moment, alongside the C919 and the transport. Obviously a source of much pride for China. ngmodels is a Chinese company at the end of the day, so it's not too surprising they're producing this. And with such an aircraft type and the features that it's got here, I guess it does fit 200 scale slightly better than 400 scale, though I would quite like to see this in 400. I have to say it would be an interesting aircraft, and it's not tiny. You can see it's probably, yeah, I guess it's kind of around that kind of Dash 8 sort of size, isn't it? Maybe slightly larger. It certainly is big for an amphibian. Anyway, this is clearly not aimed at Western countries, so I apologise to people who are, why are they making this? But it's clearly aimed at China and the Chinese home market, which I imagine is substantial. So I'm sure that NG will make money off this. But regardless of that, it's a Chinese aircraft, and they're proud, no doubt, of the Chinese industry. So that's another reason for making it. Okay, anyway, let's have a look around the model and see how it looks. You can see straight away here that I think it looks pretty awesome. And it is a really interesting and unusual shaped aircraft. So let's do that. But before we do, obviously, please subscribe to the video and the channel. And check me out at Instagram and Facebook at Yesterday Airlines, and follow me around at yesterdaysairlines.com. Always check out the website for new materials. So without further ado, let's get on and take a closer look at this new sample. Okay, so the first thing I should point out, which is reasonably obvious, is there is a small amount of damage here to this sample. Nothing too drastic, but you can see here that one of the arms of the float here, one of the pieces holds on, has snapped, and that's just happened in transit. Also, one of the wings is a bit loose, so I apologise if it falls out at some point. It's this one on my side. Obviously, these are not issues with the sample as such, just issues with the transit and the fact that it is a sample, so they don't say anything about the mould. Now, the AG600 itself is a really unusual looking aircraft. There actually was an earlier version of this aeroplane which flew in 2017 or so, and on that version it looked even weirder. The cockpit was further forward. They've now moved this backwards with this new AG600M version, as you've got here, and it means you've got this long kind of nose area which looks weird. I guess kind of like duck-like in a sense, which is fitting considering it's an amphibian. But otherwise, the configuration here is a high wing. You've got 4 engines. Each of those has got 6 props, and you can see these rotate really nicely and actually got a really good look and feel to them. You've got the outboard floats here for when it's underwater. Moving over the back, you can see you've even got this tiny little rudder for moving when it's on the surface of a lake or on the surface of the sea. You've got undercarriage which pushes up into here. This doesn't rotate as of such like those old Gemini 250 scale models. It's pegged in, you pull it out and you push it up and put it back. So it's not a swift movement. You can take it out, as you saw when that fell out earlier on. And we've got the standard kind of tricycle nose gear going on here. And as this is 200 scale, unsurprisingly, that is magnetic. So if I just take it off and have a look, you'll see that I can take that out, and it's attached by a magnet, and it slots back in nice and easy, like so. So that's all good. But obviously this is a flying boat, so you can see that it's got this keeled underside to it, and this kind of unusual form here of this added on piece, which looks very accurate. It looks just like this with this obvious line and this attached piece. So that looks really good. And I have to say that looking at the actual aeroplane here in close-up, it is photo accurate, and you've got this really nice detailing, great little aerial and the bumps, and you've got this portion here, which on the real thing is a glazed lookout portion, and it looks really, really nice. And bringing it around to look at the underside here at the front, you can see again that it's a really nice finish, nice crisp lines. And it looks really good, I have to say. Can't really have any complaints about the look and feel across, actually the whole fuselage, to be honest. This is one of the molds that I've had the least to say about that NG have ever sent me. I really don't see any problems with it here. And if we move across the back, you can see it's got this very thin aerial going on here, which looks really good. That's something you'd really struggle to do in 400 scale, I imagine. And then coming to the tail area, again, looks really good. This doesn't move the rudder down here, but it is a nice look and form, and looks really good. And the tail, again, no problems there at all. And moving out to the wings, let's just take that one off, a bit easier. Seeing as it's loose already, you can see that the look of the engines and the detailing on the wing is really nice. As I showed earlier on, these spin really easily. And I think in the video that the NG showed, they had him spinning. They obviously had some something blowing them. And these fairings under the wing attach nicely, look good, and I think the floats are really nicely shaped as well. And yeah, these are really good. The attachment points here and the pylons, just obviously quite fragile in the sense that relatively easy to snap, but that's just unfortunate. The other one's fine. So no, that looks really good. Again, the wing, no problems with that at all. So I'll just reattach that to the aeroplane. And let's have a look at that main gear, shall we? So There's a lot of really nice detailing here with the main gear, and especially the inside portion here. It comes off easy enough. You just pull it off. You can see it's got pegs. And if you want to attach it back in the raised position, then you can do so just like so. So that's nice and easy to do. You can do the same on the other side as well. There we go, it's in there too. And both of those are raised, and that looks really nice and fits very well. So no problems there. Also quite nice is you've got this little attached point here, look, which looks quite nice. Nice bit of detail here at the main gear there. Now the only issue I've really had with this mould is then filling in the space for the nose gear. You get the piece here and it's got the magnet on it, but it doesn't seem to like fitting in the space. Not because it doesn't fit, but because the magnet is repulsing the other magnet. So I'm not entirely sure which way it's supposed to go and if it's that way, but that's as good as I can get it to fit that way. And if it's the other way around, which I think is probably the correct way, when you try and put it in, it just kind of, it doesn't want to. It wants to attach out, push out. So it does fit, but it doesn't fit well because the magnet is repulsing it. So I think maybe they've just got the poles of the magnet the wrong way around on one of these. But otherwise, you see it actually fits in fine if I just hold it in place. And there's no issues with it, but it just doesn't like to sit in there because the magnets are pushing each other away. But otherwise, that looks really good. And it enables you to have the aircraft, oh, see, falls out. I'll just leave it out for the time being, but it enables you to have the aeroplane sitting on the ground in this way here, where you could potentially create, and this would be pretty cool, a water surface and kind of sit the aircraft on it, in it, so it looked like it was, you know, going around on top of the ocean. That would be a really cool look and a really cool display to do. And it's something that I've been interested in terms of flying boats. Though I've never really dreamed of having this version of a flying boat, I admit. Pan Am operated obviously a variety of really cool looking flying boats in the 1930s and 40s, and so did BOAC. It would be excellent to see a range of flying planes, though admittedly, I'd probably prefer them in 400 scale, but they'd look super cool in this scale too. So it would be nice to see those. Now, something which will aid you displaying this aircraft with the gear up and without it being on the stand is this. The model comes with this little extra piece here, which you can see has got the stand hole going through it. The model itself, it does have the stand hole underneath, but then this extra piece fits very nicely and just slots in like so. And with that in place, that means the aircraft now has a square bottom and actually will sit on a flat surface without falling to one side. So that'll make it a lot easier to display the aircraft with the gear up as though it was floating. Quite a nice touch and interesting. And you could also then use that alongside the stand. Obviously the model comes with a stand, being 200 scale. Quite a nice metal stand. It's attached by a screw. And obviously you can easily move this up and slot this in onto the stand. And she sits really nicely on the stand there. So it is a really interesting looking aircraft. I can't get over how odd it does look, but I guess in relation to other amphibians, it perhaps isn't looking as strange. But it's certainly unusual to see a manufacturer producing this type of aircraft in any scale nowadays. So that alone makes it quite interesting. Okay, and here is the aircraft again, but this time with the gear down. I actually think it looks perhaps a little cooler with the gear down than the gear up, because I really like the look of the landing gear. It just looks really good. Yeah, there's not a lot more to say about this really. Obviously not necessarily the release which I was hoping for, but NG have got all right to produce models they think are going to sell, and certainly models that work for them. I haven't got any problem with them doing that. They've been producing a lot of new molds this year. So I think that we just have to be patient to wait for molds that are exactly the mold that we're after, because I'm sure there are lots of people in China who would be super interested in this rather spectacular looking aircraft. And just like the ARJ21 and the C919, there's a lot of pride in China about these aircraft, and they will gradually, admittedly after quite protracted developments, get into service and be used in good numbers, I'm sure. So that is it really for this review. The AG600M, a really interesting and unusual aircraft, not what I think anyone was expecting NG to be making next, but nonetheless shows an interest and a willingness to do something new in the scale. And yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, certainly isn't boring, and it's not copying anyone else. So that's the AG600. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the new mold. Personally, I think that NG have got pretty much all the details spot on. Looking at the actual aircraft, I can't see anything really which is wrong. The only thing, obviously, which just needs a bit of modification is making sure that the gear up bay doors there fit in that area more easily with the magnets. But otherwise, I think this is an excellent mold. Looks pretty much good to go, and I think that NG will be announcing some new releases using this in the not too distant future, so keep an eye out for those. And thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time from yesterday's airlines.